In today's video, we have a variety of NHL news updates, including some updated trade rumors revolving around the Edmonton Oilers, New York Rangers, and Buffalo Sabres. We also have some signings and waiver news to discuss as well, and I just want to touch a little bit further on the Don Cherry situation that we discussed yesterday. We'll jump into all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of news updates, and let's get started with a couple of quick hits here. We have some signings to discuss. The Chicago Blackhawks have signed defenseman prospect Alex Regula, who they acquired from the Detroit Red Wings recently in the Brendan Perlini trade. Of course, he's playing in the Ontario Hockey League with the London Knights, so he's the defensive prospect that they gave up in order to get Perlini from the Blackhawks. He's now signed his entry-level deal with Chicago. He does look like a pretty decent prospect, so we'll see how this deal works out. I know at the time of the trade, I said for right now, it looks like the Red Wings win because they have the NHL player involved in this deal. Hopefully, Perlini can get things kind of back on track here and realize more of his potential, but the Blackhawks do add a pretty decent prospect there as well. So at least he's now signed his entry-level deal, likely be turning pro heading into next season. The Arizona Coyotes have also signed their general manager, John Chayka, to a long-term contract extension. Exact terms of the contract have not been released, but the information that was released indicated it was a long-term deal. Of course, John Chayka is one of the younger general managers in the NHL, been with the Coyotes for some time now. Of course, they recently got new ownership, which is certainly helping add a lot of stability to the franchise, and having him locked up long-term is really going to add to that as well. I mean, for the most part, I think Chayka's done a pretty decent job. I mean, I have been a little bit critical of some of his longer-term contract signings. He seems to be very fond of signing a lot of his players coming out of their ELCs to long-term contracts, 7-8 year deals. So hopefully those work out for him. But obviously, like I said, it's going to add a lot of stability to that franchise, which the Coyotes have had a lot of instability over the years. Of course, Chayka in ownership now, the big hurdle is going to find a longer-term arena situation and try to keep that team in place in the state of Arizona. I know the new ownership there is certainly committed to trying to make it work in the state of Arizona. So we'll see how all that goes. But at least, as I said, it's going to be a good move here for the Coyotes to have some long-term stability in place for the franchise. Now, as we discussed yesterday as well, the Toronto Maple Leafs have placed goaltender Michael Hutchinson on waivers. We did get confirmation this afternoon that he has cleared and has been assigned down to their American Hockey League affiliate with the Toronto Marlies. They have recalled goaltender Casimir Cascusio. I apologize if I butchered that name. It's a tough name to pronounce. I can never seem to say it just right, but their American Hockey League goaltender has been called up to the Maple Leafs to back up Frederik Andersen, at least on a short-term basis. I guess I'll give that a try and see if he can have better results than Hutchinson. And Hutchinson's defense, I really don't think the Leafs played very strong defensively in the games in front of him. He had a pretty tough schedule in the back-to-back games, which is mostly what he was playing. So certainly did not fare well, and we'll see. But I guess really not convinced at this point that Hutchinson is a legitimate full-time NHL backup goaltender. But he did seem to serve a purpose there on a short-term basis last year. But the Leafs are still looking for that longer-term permanent player. Of course, they had Garrett Sparks, who ended up leaving town. Now Hutchinson goes to the Marlies, and we'll see if their young prospect goaltender can work out or not. There's been a rumor that they've been sniffing around trying to maybe find a trade or a free agent who could possibly come in as a more experienced backup goaltender, but they've yet to be able to find that deal, and I'm sure they'll probably continue looking, especially if he has any rough games in the early going here. So we'll keep an eye on that situation as well. Now, regarding the NHL trade rumors I want to discuss today, there is some talk that young Oilers forward Jesse Puljujarvi, who's currently playing over in Finland, may very well end up staying there for the entire season. Now, as we know, if he doesn't have a contract by December the 1, he has to stay over there and won't be able to play in the NHL for the entire season. The Oilers seem to be on the fence at this point if they're going to trade him or not. There is some belief that they feel him staying in Finland for the year, having a solid year like he has so far, will only continue to build his value. I guess they're probably secretly hoping that maybe he'll have a change of heart and come back and want to play with their organization, although it looks unlikely that's going to happen. And then maybe their trade value would be much higher come next offseason to see if they can get a better deal in place. But as far as the connections go, and what I want to talk about the New York Rangers involving trade rumors, there has been some talk that they were interested in acquiring the young Finnish winger from the Edmonton Oilers, and belief out there is that they were offering one of their young prospects, Elias Anderson, who's at this point still kind of struggling to find a a more permanent place on that Rangers roster as well. So certainly an interesting scenario. Of course, Anderson mainly plays center, which very well could be a longer-term fit for the Oilers. I mean, it's hard to project their salary cap situation over the next number of years, but depending on what else they do for moves, a player like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, for example, it's hard to say, if he'll be able to re-sign with them once his current contract expires. Having a young forward like Anderson who can play center in the mix very well could be a good deal for them to have some cost certainty to keep the cost down in that bottom six role. But I guess we'll see what happens with the Oilers. There's belief that they would prefer to have another winger or winger prospect or pick in return instead of going down to center ice roles. But the current reports are indicating, but personally, I think if they can get a good prospect center like Anderson, I think that's something they should probably at least consider. But as of right now, it's not really something that either side seems to be committed to doing. So I guess that's another situation that we'll keep an eye on here as the season unfolds. Now, the other team to watch here closely in the next little while, I think, will be the Buffalo Sabres. They've obviously had a really hot start, have stumbled as of late. They played with the Global Series against the Tampa Bay Lightning over in Europe recently, played 2 NHL regular season games, dropped both of them. They're now on a bit of a losing skid, and I think we're likely going to see Jason Botterill make a move sooner than later to try to shake things up. There was already talk before the losing skid happened. They were really interested in maybe adding a top six forward to add some more scoring punch up front, and that's really more emphasized now, especially with the losing skid. And they have a variety of players on the blue line who very well could be expendable to help make that happen. Now, of course, the Sabres, like I said, are also kind of disappointed in Jimmy Vesey. He would certainly be a player that likely would be available for trade after coming over from the Rangers. He's had a really, really slow start to his current season and certainly not looking good in the Sabres uniform here so far. So between Vesey and players on their blue line, maybe like a Marco Scandella, they very well could try to be packaged together along with some other assets to try to acquire a bigger name forward to play along in that top six group. But I guess we'll see what happens. I know obviously the big fish on the trade market right now would be Taylor Hall. Of course, that's a little premature, a little early to say they'd be going after a player like him. But obviously, besides Taylor Hall, there's plenty of other players out there. Like you look at the guys like on the Los Angeles Kings, like Jeff Carter, Tyler Toffoli. Their name's been out there quite a bit as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the Sabres proceed, but they're certainly scouring the market right now and trying to see what they can do to upgrade their scoring punch. Now, before we go today, I just want to take a minute just to touch on the Don Cherry situation a little bit further. Yesterday's video, obviously, we discussed the news of the firing of Don Cherry from Sportsnet and Hockey Night in Canada. Coach's Corner will no longer be on the air with Don Cherry, at least as the host. It's not quite clear at this point if Coach's Corner is going to continue, if they're going to have somebody else take over the segment, or if they're going to go in a completely different direction, revamp that first intermission segment on the popular Saturday Night Hockey program or not. But I just wanted to touch base on this a little bit further. It's just a little bit surprising. I know yesterday the news was quite surprising that came down. I know Don Cherry's a very iconic, popular hockey figure across Canada and has tons of support, which is certainly clear, which is totally understandable considering how long he's been in the game and how important he's been to Canadians. Obviously, he's a big part of Canadian hockey history. I was just a little bit surprised to see so much negativity towards the video in the comment section. It was a little bit toxic at times. We saw the subscribe numbers drop, which, whatever, it's fine. I don't expect everybody to agree with me on every topic that we discuss. It was just kind of surprising. I certainly take pride in this channel and in the comment section of the videos on this channel to be an area where we can all express our opinions openly and freely without really being criticized too much. It's a place where we want to have open discussions and, come together on having fun hockey topic discussions. So it's just a little bit surprising, but personally I just want to clarify a couple things here. But obviously Don Cherry's been a big part of my life as a hockey fan for a long time. Clearly he's been at Coach's Corner almost as long as I've been alive, so clearly, like I said, he's somebody that I've supported a lot over the years, and he's done a lot of good. I don't want anybody to think that I think real poorly of Don Cherry. Even good people sometimes I think can make mistakes or make bad choices, and in this case I just really don't feel like I can defend the comments he made. And you know what, maybe they were taken out of context and maybe they were misunderstood, and I understand why some people are defending him, and I totally respect that choice and that opinion. Like I said, everybody's entitled to their own, and at the same time though, what he said was interpreted the way it was, and unfortunately he's paid the ultimate price here, and he was not willing to apologize for that, which was no real surprise from Don Cherry. He's always been very outspoken, not afraid to discuss the difficult topics, and does not want to apologize for his opinions. And you know what, maybe he shouldn't. At his age, he's 85 years old. Like I said, he doesn't really need to work anymore, and if the platform he's on is not going to give him the freedom to speak the way he wants, then, you know, maybe it's best that he not do that. There were some comments suggesting maybe he should have a YouTube channel where he can, you know, openly discuss whatever he wants. And personally, I think that'd be a great platform for him to do so, because he wouldn't have any network executives kind of dictating what he can and cannot say. But either way, I do think Don Cherry overall will always be an iconic hockey figure in Canada. You know, it's kind of sad to see an end of an era in Hockey Night in Canada, its Coach's Corner, come to an end the way it did. But, you know, I do think he did make a mistake in his word choices, but the message was right. Obviously, he's a big believer that we should be supporting our veterans and military more and wearing the poppy to kind of express our gratitude for everything that was done and for the freedoms we have today. And, you know, I agree with the message in general. It's just the choice of words and how he singled out certain people for not supporting it. But I'm just not sure that the data was really there to support it. So it's unfortunate, and I'm not really sure that, you know, things would have come to an end the way they did, but it is what it is, I guess. I just want to clarify my position a little bit further. Just not used to getting that type of reaction on a video, which I know was a kind of a hot topic, sensitive subject that many people were expressing their opinions on over the weekend. So, of course, as always, I want to know your thoughts and opinions on everything discussed here today down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts and we'll continue discussing further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.